Kyle Bradshaw from Chaparral Motorsports, and welcome to this video where we're going to show you how to change your own tire manually, either at home in your own garage or out in the field. This is a question that we get all the time on our social media, through the phone calls, people that walk into the store. People are deathly afraid of changing their own tire manually. Now, out in the field, sometimes it happens, and it's the thing you have to do in order to get home. Some guys want to save a little time and money, well, a little money anyway, and try to do the tire change at home in their own garage. Knowing the step-by-step procedure is key for you having a good time while changing your own tires. Now here on the table, I've got lots of tools. These tools are absolutely essential if you're looking to have the easiest time possible while doing your manual tire change. Without these tools, it can be problematic, it can be frustrating, and I really don't recommend it. Now at home in my garage, I've got essentially all of these tools, so I've got a whole toolbox or arsenal full of stuff. When I'm out on the trail, my tool selection is a little bit different. What I carry with me on the trail are these two very beat up Enduro style tire irons, a Bead Pro, so I can bead brake and have tire levers, and this 16-inch curved unit. Those are my favorite pieces as far as taking with me to do a tire change on the road. Now a couple of the key components you really need to have with you. This axle wrench is amazing, literally covers every bike out there, and a valve core remover is pretty essential unless you want to get creative and use a stick or a flathead screwdriver in order to remove and then reinstall your valve core, which can be a little bit tricky, but can be done. A couple other items here on the table. You got the bead popper, another way to break your bead, and then you've got rim protectors. Rim protectors are great if your rim has never been scratched, it's in pristine condition, and you want to keep it that way. As you can see by my nice, lovely BMW rim here, it's been beat to death, it's been put through the war, so a rim protector, a rim saver, really not on the top of my priority list. So two things I haven't mentioned yet. Number one, soapy water. At home I use the big bottle, and out on the trail, this little guy right here. Now, sometimes I've got a squirt pump, but sometimes those break, so I really like the little clip open, almost like a shampoo bottle you get from a hotel. This is great for putting soapy water onto your rim in order to loosen up the grime, get the weak tire off easily, and then of course slipping the new tire back on. Another item here on the table I haven't mentioned yet that we don't necessarily sell here, but I found to be very, very helpful are these little wooden blocks. I created these little wooden blocks to slide down in between the rim and the tire, which keeps that tire in the drop center of the rim so I can free up my hands to do other things. I usually carry 2 or 3 of these blocks with me whenever I travel. Remember, the drop center of the wheel, this raised part right here, is absolutely key in having a successful manual tire change. Now we've got lots of tire irons here on the table, and they all serve a little bit different purpose. You've got the standard Enduro style tire iron. Those get the job done in the field. They're shorter in length, smaller, less material to carry. I really, really like, and when these are ready to retire, I'm going to upgrade to the spoon lever from Motion Pro. It's basically the same size, but this looped end really is comfortable on your palm when you're applying pressure. Again, sold as either a 2-pack or a single pack, a great, great item. If your motorcycle has a large front axle bolt or rear axle bolt, I highly recommend these guys here. Motion Pro makes individual units, or they make combos that give you a 13, 17, and then various rear sizes. So literally with one wrench, you can get several of those fasteners undone, and you've got a tire iron to boot. It's a really great unit. If you're just getting into it and don't have a bunch of these tools already, this 3-pack here from Motion Pro is great. They give you a short, a medium, and a 16-inch curved tire iron. Now the 16-inch curved I always carry with me on every bike that I ride. Basically, I zip tie it to the frame, set it, forget it, leave it there. If I never have to change a tire, I never have to touch it. But if I need to change a tire on the trail, this thing is invaluable. Now, the same thing, a long, lots of leverage type of iron is this guy right here. This is the one that I use in the garage. Obviously, it's a bit large to take on the trail, but the comfort of this handle really makes that last pull in the garage much easier, safer, and more comfortable. Now, the dead blow hammer I usually carry with me. A sledgehammer is really, really heavy. The dead blow gives me the same amount of action with less weight. Now, I carry this when I go camping. I hate trying to find rocks to put tent stakes in. And it's a great device to use when facilitating use of the bead popper. Now some guys pick up rocks in the forest, or they use their motocross boot. There's lots of different ways you can utilize or activate the bead popper, but the dead blow hammer is my favorite. I had mentioned that I don't normally use rim protectors on my own bikes because the rims have been pretty well used, if you will. But there are 2 great options. So this one here is a rim protector from Motion Pro. It's great. You basically slip this over the rim, and then once you use your lever, spoon the tire over. If this pops inside, you can use the cord and go ahead and yank it back out again. This here is another very popular option, and this, once again, gets pulled over the rim. These little slots here for your fingers to be able to pull and make them snug. So rim protectors, they're great options if you're looking to keep your wheels absolutely pristine and brand new. If you already have scratches and scrapes on your wheel like I do, then rim protectors, probably not that important. Now that we touched on the basics, let's get busy. So here we are, manual tire change time. Got my tools laid out, I got my wheel ready to go. Most of the time this happens when you're in the field and need to make an emergency repair, and that's why we're down here on the floor. It'd be much easier up on the table where everything is, chest level, but here we are today on the floor, on the ground, just like you would be out in the wilderness or on the side of the road. Manual tire changes are not easy. They take time, they take some patience, and sometimes some perseverance. This here is a BMW wheel off my R1200 GS Adventure, and these are known to be more problematic, if you will, than say a standard dirt bike tire. Two reasons. Number one, the rim construction is a little bit different with the spokes going to the outside, so some of the common tools that you'd use on a dirt bike aren't really functional for this type of application. Number two, the bead. The bead on these adventure tires is super, super rigid as compared to a dirt bike, which is relatively flexible. The first thing I like to do is lube up the tire and rim. So I'm going to lube here inside this channel. I'm going to go ahead and work it around. I'm then going to flip the wheel over and do the same thing. Next, I'll tackle the valve stem. So the next thing we're going to do is remove the valve core from the tire itself. Now I've got this tool right here, which I usually really love, but as you can see, it's going to hit these spokes. Not so conducive. Due to the problem with that particular valve core remover, I made my own here. You can see I just took a valve cap off of the bike, put a lock nut on it, which is just the valve stem lock nut, and then used an old valve stem. It actually works really, really well. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and use this tool to get this valve core removed. Now we're going to use one of my favorite tools. This is the Motion Pro Bead Pro. This is a tire bead breaker and a pair of tire irons. Check it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first part, we're going to go ahead and jam this down in between the tire and the rim. Once we get that inserted, we take the second piece, set that in place, and then we're going to pinch these together and pull down, breaking that bead. We're going to go ahead and do that all the way around the tire so that we make sure that this bead's sufficiently broken all the way around. And once we get it so far, we can go ahead and push it down with our hands just to ensure that all the way around we've got this gap here. We're then going to flip the tire over and do it again on the other side. Now on the second side, sometimes you can just break it once and then kind of work it around with your hands. And there you go. Now keep in mind that the bead of this tire is much smaller in diameter than the wheel itself. So making sure that you keep the bead of the tire in that drop center is absolutely imperative. We talked about those blocks. This is what I use to keep the back side tire into that drop center so it doesn't swap out. Take a look at that. It's at this stage of the game that I use more of my lube. Again, lubrication is your friend when getting this rubber up and over the rim. Next, we're going to go ahead and lever this tire bead up and over the rim. There it is. You got it. And there it is. All right, now we're going to go ahead and make sure that we get the other side up and over. As you can see, we have here the bead of the tire sitting in that drop center. We're going to need it to be there in order to get the other side up and over as well. Now with this particular wheel, we have a tire sensor installed. As you can see here, that sensor sits right inside the drop center. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that wheel or that tire up and over that sensor, and that's where I'm going to start at. If you don't do that, if you leave that sensor on the opposite side of the tire trying to pry over, it's going to be extremely difficult, almost impossible to get that tire off. So again, we're going to start there. We're going to make sure the rest of the tire is in the drop center, and then we're going to use our handy dandy tools here. Number 2, number 3. There it is. And there we go. The tire has now been successfully removed from the wheel. What I'm going to do is look really closely at the channel here and make sure it's clean, because this is where we need that bead to seat against when we remount the tire. So it's always a good idea to go ahead and take a look, make sure there's no cracks, no dings, no dents, and no debris. Now, as you may have noticed, we don't have a tube in this wheel because it is a tubeless rim setup. If you did have a tube, you want to make sure that your rim strip was in the right place, that your spokes are all tight, and everything is good to go there as well. So now it's time to get this tire mounted onto this wheel, and again, lubrication is our friend. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a look at my rim. Directional rotation is this way. I'm going to find that directional rotation on the tire and make sure that it's going the correct way so that I get this thing mounted up correctly. So now we're at the point that we're going to lubricate the tire. We're going to lubricate the outside here because that's going to be slipping up and over this rim. And then we're going to lubricate the inside of the tire on this side because that's the part that's going to slip over. A lot of people will only lubricate on the outside, and that doesn't help you for that last part going up and over. And what I'm going to do now is take my tire iron with the most leverage and put that right in the center. I'm now going to go ahead and work my way around until I get the rest of this up and over the edge. Just like that. All right, now that we got the tire mounted one side, we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more lubrication to make sure this process is as easy as possible. Okay, now that we're in the same position we were at last time, I'm going to go ahead and slide my block on this side over here. Again, I'm going to take my tire iron at the point where we're going to pull over at the very end, get it in position. And we're now going to work this from one side to the other. All right, and there we have it. Now again, the key to this tire installation is keeping both sides of the tire in the drop center, and that's why I use these lovely little blocks. So now it's time to fill the tire with air, seat the beads, and mount this on the motorcycle. Now out in the wilderness, you're not going to have a way to balance this thing, but balance is important on big adventure bikes and some dirt bikes that you're riding on the street. So join us in an upcoming episode where we show you how to manually balance your tires at home in your own garage. As we've shown here today, doing your own tire dismount and mount in your own garage or out on the trail can be done. It is great to have some special tools with you to make that job a bit easier. Stay tuned for one of our future episodes where we show you our favorite methods of putting air into your tire out on the road or out on the trail. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Please remember to like and subscribe to these videos so you can stay in the loop for everything new that we produce here upcoming in 2018. I'm Kyle with Chaparral Motorsports. Until next time, take care and ride safe.